the hollow man denouement. The knock at the door reverberated through the walls, a deep, resonant thud that sent a shockwave through my very core. I knew what was coming next. I had heard this before. My own voice, distorted, wrong, echoed from beyond the wooden barrier. "Hello? Is anyone there?" My breath came in shallow gasps. The walls pulsed, breathing in tandem with my own ragged inhalations. The house was shifting, alive, feeding off my fear. The door creaked, the knob trembling as if something on the other side was testing its strength. I backed away, but my feet wouldn't move properly. The floor beneath me had changed, soft and spongy, like rotting wood soaked through with something thick and viscous. I looked down. My feet were sinking into the floorboards. No, not into, through. The wood had become something else, something organic, something that pulled at my skin, grasping at my ankles with sinewy tendrils. The door burst open. What stood there was not me. It wore my shape, bore my height, moved like I did, but its face was a mockery of mine. Hollow, stretched, warped into an expression that was neither a smile nor a frown, just an empty, unnatural grimace. Its eyes were nothing but voids swallowing the dim light. It took a step forward. I tried to run, but the walls closed in around me, twisting, bending, turning the hallway into an endless corridor of shifting angles and distorted doorways. Each door led to somewhere worse than the last. My childhood bedroom, but decayed and rotten. A hospital room with flickering lights and a bed covered in blackened sheets. An office filled with dozens of copies of myself, all sitting motionless, staring at their screens, their hollow faces reflecting back at me. A whisper slithered down my spine. "You belong here." The thing that wore my face reached out, fingers elongated, curling unnaturally. As soon as it touched me, pain lanced through my body, a burning, freezing sensation that set every nerve on fire. My vision darkened at the edges, tunneling into oblivion. Then, suddenly, I was standing outside the house. The night air was still, thick with an unnatural silence. My car sat where I had left it, its keys dangling in the ignition. I gasped, stumbling toward it, throwing myself into the driver's seat. The engine roared to life, and I peeled away from the house, the tires kicking up gravel as I sped down the deserted road. But something was wrong. The further I drove, the less real the world became. The trees on either side of the road stretched unnaturally tall, their branches reaching like skeletal fingers. The streetlights flickered, then winked out one by one. The radio crackled, a static whisper that grew louder, forming words I didn't want to hear. "You never left." I slammed on the brakes. The headlights illuminated something ahead, my house. I was back. A scream clawed its way up my throat, but it died before it reached my lips. The car was gone. The road was gone. I was standing in front of the house again, my hands trembling, my breath coming in desperate gulps. The front door was open. A yawning black void waited for me. I turned, ready to run, but I collided with something solid. Myself. I staggered back. It wasn't just one of me. It was dozens. 100. 1,000. All of them standing in the darkness, their hollow faces watching, their empty mouths whispering in unison. "You never left. You never left. You never left." The ground beneath me split open, and I fell, plunging into a chasm of shadows, the world collapsing into a spiraling vortex of nightmares. Hands reached out from the darkness, grasping, pulling, dragging me down. I hit the ground hard, gasping, my fingers clawing at the earth. I was inside the house. The walls pulsed. The shadows loomed. And standing in the doorway, waiting, was my hollow reflection. It smiled. And then it stepped forward, reaching for me. The last thing I heard before the darkness swallowed me whole was my own voice, whispering from the other side. "Hello? Is anyone there?" And then silence.